Welcome back, everyone. Does everyone enjoy their summers?
Yes.
Does everyone read their books like they're supposed to?
Yes.
What did everyone read? Anya?
The Skin I'm In by
Wow.
Sparkle.
Isabel?
13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher.
Brooke?
It's Kind of a Funny Story by Ned Vicini.
Anna?
I read Something Blue by Emily Giffin.
Did everyone enjoy their books?
Yeah.
Anyone didn't like anything about it?
I didn't like something.
What part did you not like about it?
I didn't like how you only got the reaction of one person instead of all 13 of them. See, like my book was about how a girl committed suicide, and she takes these recordings and sends them to the people that were the reasons why she committed suicide. And you get the opinion and the reaction of one person named Clay, and you see how her suicide affected him. So it was interesting to see that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What, did everyone have like a main theme to their book?
Mine was rape.
Mine was death.
Mine was death and love.
Mine was relationships.
Okay, well let's start with Anya. What was your book about?
The Skin I'm In was basically about an African-American girl who grew up in what you could say the hood. She didn't have a lot of friends. She always used to run back and forth to her grandparents' house because she used to get teased. She was raped by her father at age 3. When she went to school, people thought that she was basically nothing. So that really had a big impact on her life.
Anya, do you have a passage from your book that represents your theme?
Yeah. Bad things happened around here to people who can't keep their mouth shut. I ain't no squealer. Never was, never will be. Least you're keeping your mouth shut. Squealing on your friends ain't even cool. Basically, that's about how she thought that she had a lot of friends, but at the end of the day, everyone would talk about her behind her back.
How does your book and passage relate to real life in general?
Basically, my passage relates to life because people actually do get raped and they get made fun of. And in the story, a girl named Angelica, she was raped constantly by different people. First her father and then friends at school. So when you hear about that type of stuff on the news, like it just really like clicked to me, like it related to my book.
Isabel, how does your main theme lead into Anya's theme of
Well, something happened in her character's life, which was rape. And in my book, it's all about cause and effect and how one thing can cause someone to do something. So through the book she describes how each event is like a snowball onto the fact that leading up to her suicide. So my passage is talking about, because every time something bad happened, I thought about it. I'll say it. I thought about suicide. After everything I've talked about on these tapes, everything that occurred, I thought about suicide. Usually it was just a passing thought, I wish I would die.
How does that represent your book?
It represents how someone did something to her and it just made everything worse in her life. And how one little rumor led up to even more rumors and how people took advantage of her and it just led up to her wanting to just die.
So, explain what happened to your main character. Did she commit suicide?
She did.
And what did she do after that?
After she committed suicide, she sent these tapes to each person that were a reason why she did what she did, and she left them a map of where to go to when to listen to each tape. So you really get the sense of like why this person did this, like why she committed suicide, and you get the reaction of the person while hearing the tapes and what it does to them.
Did many people feel guilty or upset?
They felt really guilty. So the other main character, Clay, he didn't do anything bad to her, he just didn't recognize that she was so sad. So when he's going around school and watching everybody else who already listened to the tapes, he could see a change physically in them and emotionally in them after knowing that this person read the tapes or listened to the tapes.
How was Clay related to the character that?
They were peers at first and they worked together, and eventually they were going to date, but they didn't get the chance to do it. And she didn't realize that she fell in love with him, and he didn't even realize that he was in love with her until after she was gone.
So, your main character, Clay, basically helps the character who committed suicide explain her story to everyone.
Yeah, he sends the tapes on to each next person, making sure. At first, he wasn't even going to listen to them, but then he decided he needed to listen to them and hear her story out.
Well, how does your book relate to real life in general?
I think my book relates to real life in general because I don't think some people are aware of what sort of things they do to other people can affect that person. So I think that these people didn't realize that everything that they were doing to the main character Hannah, that they were leading up to her doing something such as suicide. And I think people need to take that into factor. What they're doing can affect someone like that.
Brooke, what did you read this summer?
It's kind of a funny story by Ned Vizzini.
What was it about?
It's about this boy named Craig who is in middle school and he's working really hard to get into this elite private high school. And so like he's been studying and he hasn't been going out and all he's been doing is been focusing and taking all these tests and everything to get into this high school. And so then once the test comes around and he aces it, he realized that his whole middle school was him studying and he didn't socialize with anyone and now he has no friends. So he gets really depressed because he has no friends and he has no one to turn to and he feels so out of the loop from everyone. So he decides he wants to kill himself. And then he finds one of his mom's book, how to deal with a loved one, the loss of a loved one. And it says to call a suicide hotline. So he checks himself into a hospital and he meets people in this hospital and they change his life. He meets this girl well and they end up falling in love and basically they saved his life because he was so depressed and lonely that he just wanted to die.
What's the main passage that represents your theme of death?
The passage I found, it was in the beginning of the book. He said, "I did not want to wake up. I was having a much better time to sleep, and that's really sad. It was almost like a reverse nightmare. Like when you wake up from a nightmare, you're relieved, but I woke up into a nightmare."
How does that tie in to your theme?
He's saying that he would rather sleep and to get away from the pain because living and waking up is just so horrible to him that he doesn't even want to be awake. He wants to be dead. The reason I chose this is because it just can relate because I get so stressed out of school as well as probably everyone in this classroom. And with all of the tests and everything, it just really affects the test of getting in. He was applying to high school, to a private high school, but just with college and everything. But when he gets into the hospital, he meets Noelle, who basically gets him, he gets his mind distracted from all the stress, and he ends up falling in love with her, and so then he meets Noelle, and she really changes his life in a positive way, and makes him look at life differently.
So Anna, did you enjoy your book this summer?
Yeah, I did.
What did you read?
The follow-up to Something Borrowed, which is called Something Blue by Emily Giffin.
Okay, now what was your book about?
My book was about the main character, Darcy Roan, and in the beginning of the book, Darcy is very materialistic and only concerned with looks, and she finds out that she's pregnant, but unfortunately, her relationship with the father of the baby doesn't work out, and so she moves to London with her old friend Ethan, and it's kind of just about her finding out a lot of life lessons and how life isn't all about the materialistic things, and learning how to be a caring mother. And by the end of the book, her relationship with Ethan, she ends up in a relationship with Ethan, her good friend, and it changes her life in a really positive way, just like Noelle changes Craig's life in a very positive way, because she realizes that life isn't about the material thing.
Tell the class an important passage that represents your theme of relationships.
An important passage would be, "Anxiety was not an emotion I could ever remember feeling when I went out in New York, and I wondered why tonight felt so different. Maybe it was because I no longer had a boyfriend or fiancé. I suddenly recognized that there was a safety in having someone as well as a lack of pressure to shine. Ironically, this has cultivated a certain free-spiritedness that had, in turn, allowed me to be the life of the party and hoard the affection of additional men. But that had all changed."
So how does your passage relate to real life in general?
Well, I think in real life, people, just like Darcy liked their relationship, the safety of having a relationship, people like the safety of having someone to lean on in life and not being alone, and it's a safety factor for a lot of people.
Yes, Anna?
This is Eisenberg. Did you read any books this summer?
Oh, yes, I did.
What'd you read?
The Fault in Our Stars by John Green.
What's it about?
Well, it's about this young girl who was sick and she couldn't go to school or anything, and she would go to all these, like not interventions, but what would you call it?
Meetings.
Like meetings at.
Support groups.
Oh, yes. She would go to all these like support groups that like helped her deal with like the daily struggles of being sick and not being like a normal teenager. And she meets this kid named Isaac, and he's also sick. He has eye cancer. And he introduces Hazel to Augustus, who's also sick, but Hazel doesn't know because he was, as you would say, cured, but not completely. And they fall in love, and the whole story is basically about how they have something in common, and he helps her get through the tough times. And at the end of the story, Augustus passes away. Yes, Anna?
So your book was also about relationships, just like frickin' I.
Yes, it is.
Fabulous.
Yes.
So what would you say that your theme was?
My theme would probably would be a toss-up between love and death, because two characters in the story do pass away, but it's also, the whole story is about Augustus and Hazel's relationship.
How could you relate this to your life?
Wait, can we hear a passage first?
Sometimes people don't understand the promises they're making when they make them. Right, of course, but you keep the promise anyway. That's what love is. Love is keeping the promise anyway. Don't you believe in true love?
How does this relate to your life?
Well, anyway, this book relates to my life about my boyfriend Harsh. He's always there for me, and I know that when I make a promise with him, like, he'll always fulfill it, and he's always there for me, and always someone that I can lean on and trust.
Are you in love?
Yes. Augustus and Hazel, like, Hazel could always rely on Augustus to be there for her, and I can always rely on Harsh being. Harsh is the one and only.
Does he love you too?
Yes.
How do you know this?
Just like Augustus. Love.
Hazel.
Hazel. I wish my boyfriend Justin did compared to stuff like that.
Yeah, my boyfriend Logan, damn, Jason, like, come on.
You same Tyler.
I know that if I had ever had a problem, that Harsh should be there for me.
Not Justin.
You don't believe your boyfriend Justin would be there for you?
I don't like him.
Then why are you dating him?
Because he buys me stuff.
Just like Darcy. She's materialistic.
So, anybody have any relationships that their book kind of reflects on you?
I'm in a very unhappy relationship. I feel as though my partner doesn't really do everything that he needs to. He's not really there for me as he should be. Just like in my book, no one's really there for Angelica, which is the main character.
Your boyfriend's name?
Justin Riley.
I know that my book, and I'm sure maybe some of your books, are being made into movies right now. What are some parts of the book that you like really, really want to see when the movie comes out?
My book was already made into a movie, and I watched the movie, and I think it didn't capture as well as the book did, but it was very good. I just think the book was more touching, and
That's usually the case.
yeah, it just touched your heart more, not as much as the movie. The movie was very good, and I do recommend it, but I definitely recommend reading the book first, which is what I did, and it was very good. I think the movie, my book is being made into a movie in the next few months, I'm pretty sure. And I think that when the movie does come out, I think the most important part is the emotion that the main character, Clay, like, experiences and shows. I think the movie needs to capture that in order to be as effective as the book was.
And Anya?
Oh, you're going to pick her first?
She's supposed to raise her hand. Anna?
Well, the first book was already made into a movie, but if this one was made into a movie, I would definitely want to see the beginning scenes be included because they were very powerful. It's when she first leaves her negative relationship with the father of the baby that she's having, and it's just a very emotional scene, and it's very dramatic.
Did you see the first movie?
Yes.
Did you like it?
Yes.
Jinx.
I love Kate Hudson.
Did you like the book or the movie more?
I like the book more, just because it gives you a more in-depth view.
I think they chose bad characters for that movie.
I love Kate Hudson.
I like her too. The girl with the The guy's
I hate the girl who plays.
She loves the love
She's in how
He's just not that into
he's
it.
just not into
The
it.
guy who
And
plays
she always smiles when she's sad, like at the end of
Yeah.
the movie. She's like trying to act sad and she's still smiling. Like, stop smiling. You just want to slap her. Like you're just like, stop, just stop. I hate her.
the guy who plays Dex is adorable.
I don't remember.
I think he's so
Yeah, I just remember Kate Hudson.
I pictured them so differently in the book, and then when I
Okay.
I definitely think that if my book was made into a movie, then they should show like the real hardships. I don't think that they should leave anything out because you won't have the connection. I think that you should read the book way before you watch the movie, just so that you can get your mind ready for everything that has happened. I think that some things should be cut out almost as though it's just a whole bunch. So I think that it definitely should show like all the emotion and everything.
I know that your book is being made into a movie right now. What do you think that the movie definitely should have?
I think it should definitely have, like, basically all the parts where it explains how when she met Isaac, when she met Augustus, how it was hard to deal with herself, but also deal with Isaac dying, and show that how Augustus is always there for her to lean on, and when he passes away that although she has nothing to really lean on, she can always feel him around her, and that they should really portray that she will get through it because she knows that he's always there.
are you gonna see the movie?
Oh yeah, I'm going to midnight premiere.
When does it come out?
June 26th. So Anya, what's your favorite part as well?
I would have to say my favorite part in the book is when Angelica was walking home from school one day and she saw her grandmother that she hasn't seen in years. Her grandmother pulled her aside and asked her what was wrong. She said nothing. But like even after those years, because like they were so like far apart, like she realized.
Mark's home.
Oh, she got fucking little ruined it.
I forget what I was. Oh shoot, guys. Hold on. Okay, we started over again.
What's your favorite part in the book?
My favorite part of the book would basically be when Angelica was walking home from school and she saw her grandmother, which she hadn't seen in years. Her grandmother stopped her and basically asked her, you know, what was wrong with her. She had like a down face. And then like she said nothing, but her grandmother could always tell even after these years. So I just thought that that was interesting because even after.
It's
It's okay. It's okay.
That's what it's sad.
Don't cry.
Huh?
It's sad.
I just liked the fact that my book could really like tell the story of a girl who came like such a long way.
Isabel?
I think my favorite part of the book is the climax of the book when the main character Clay realizes why he's in these tapes, because the entire time he is thinking back, I never did anything to this girl, I don't know why I'm on these tapes. Then he realizes that she didn't do anything, but the fact that she was in love with him, and that's when he really truly realizes his real feelings for her.
I think my favorite part is when Craig checks himself into the hospital instead of killing himself, because that's really brave of him. And most teenagers wouldn't be able to do that. It's just he's very strong to do that on his own, without anybody telling him to. He made the decision, no help.
Yeah.
I think my favorite part of my book is when the main character, Darcy, really realizes how selfish she had been in the past, and so then she decides to work at, it's like a home for the elderly, and she tries to work there. It was just touching.
That is.
What about your favorite part on the side?
My favorite part is probably the saddest part. It's when Augustus has passed away, and it's finally hitting Hazel, and she is constantly like calling his phone, just like listening to his voicemail, and like she realizes that although he's gone, but like his presence is always with her.
Did you cry?
Yeah.
Yes, yours.
I bawled my eyes out. Do you recommend your book?
Not at all.
Why is that?
Only because some people can't handle like the real hardships of how it is not living in the suburbs. So that would really touch different types of people. Like, you really have to be a strong individual to sit down and read a book like that.
But maybe some people need a reality check to realize that the whole world is not like what we live in.
But some people really don't have, like, that mental capability to sit down and actually just sit down and, like, read that.
Isabel?
I would definitely recommend this book. It was great to see the different side of the story of why this girl did what she did. I think that was very interesting to see, and it just caught my attention immediately, and I couldn't even put the book down.
I would recommend it because it's so relatable for many teens. I mean, not to that extent, but like in the beginning, it's really sad, and I almost stopped reading it because it was so sad. But it does get better, and it lightens up. And I read it really quick. It was just such a good book.
Yeah.
I would recommend mine if you read the first one because it's a sequel, but
Did you read the first one?
yeah.
Which one did you like better?
I like the first one better just because more things went on, but this was still a very good book. It was interesting to see the character change so much from the beginning to the end of the book.
Would you recommend your book?
Yes, I would. But I would also recommend having a box of tissues because it's pulls the strings of your heart.
The
Class
I think that this is
dismissed.
a big
Class dismissed.